DC versus Marvel is to feuds as Star Trek is versus Star Wars. You know it's not obligatory to have to pick, yet you can't help but lean more towards one over the other. Though I'm both a fan of DC and Marvel, as well as Star Trek and Star Wars for that matter, I can't help but prefer DC over the two for multiple reasons. For one, DC's character development is deeper. DC origin stories are much more intricate and significant. Marvel's origin stories, on the other hand, typically abide by the same formula. DC delves deep into its character story arc to reveal the motives that drive their need to satiate their thirst for justice. The event that transpires before the subsequent transition to hero is typically unvarying when it comes to Marvel characters. Batman is one of the most tragic origin stories of the DC universe. Has one of the most tragic stories of the DC universe. Bruce Wayne's parents' demise was a direct cause of the justice-seeking mass vigilante. Marvel heroes are usually derivative of pre-existing characters such as Thor the Norse god. They, for the most part, are also average characters who typically acquire their abilities. Peter Parker getting bit by a radioactive spider transitioning him into Spider-Man, or Deadpool acquiring his abilities after an experimental treatment mishap, for example. DC is also thematically larger than life. DC heroes are characteristically of monumental proportions. Marvel is more grounded in normalcy. The heroes in DC register in a major way characteristically because creators are not afraid of experimenting with fantastical elements. Marvel takes a more human approach with their heroes. DC has characters such as Superman, who is of a technologically advanced alien species, Wonder Woman is an Amazonian princess, and Aquaman can telepathically communicate with sea dwellers. Marvel has characters that usually maintain a degree of humanness to them. Bruce Banner is what you get when the Hulk regresses, Tony Stark is a billionaire philanthropist, and even Thor gets banished to Earth by Odin and having been stripped of his hammer is forced to engage in the comings and goings of everyday life, devoid of his powers. While Marvel seems to be dominating in the cinematic universe, collectively I believe DC is superior in that realm as well. Their comic books and sales are also indicative of that. DC Comics has a better sales record, and the quality of DC's content is first rate. While box office hits such as The Avengers or Thor Ragnarok have generated revenue and drawn crowds, DC still has classics that remain unparalleled and are dominating in television as well. Their comic book sales also speak for themselves. Of DC's greats, two irrefutable contenders is the Dark Knight trilogy and the animated series, or most recently the adaptation of The Killing Joke, which happen to be a few of my personal favorites. So shows such as Jessica Jones and Daredevil are also faring better than the shows Marvel is televising. DC also has access to all of its characters, unlike Marvel, which is why it's easier to have some of the lesser-known characters such as Ant-Man grab screen time over some of Marvel's other more iconic characters such as Wolverine. Comic book sales of last year reflected DC reserving 6 of the top spots to include Dark Knight's Metal issue number 1, which ranked number 2. This left Marvel to occupy only 4 spots out of the 10. This year, DC's market share is at 38.94%, leaving Marvel lagging at 33.8%. So, while there are exceptions to some of these, I firmly believe that DC reigns supreme. Batman alone is example enough and could, if necessary, carry the entire weight of my position. Here we have a man who was anteriorly normal and unaffected before having witnessed his parents shot dead right before his eyes. Despite this dark past, is a man who overcame fear and sorrow to resiliently pursue justice without compromising his principles, and there are few things more admirable than that.